Hi, I'm Bim, also known as Mango Mustard, and this is part 3 of the Fursuit Refurbishing video series thingy. Today's video is pretty much just going to be only containing tracing, cutting out, and shaving down the fursuit patterns for the face, head, and neck, so it's not going to be a very interesting video, I guess. And that's why it's so short, and I'm probably not going to be doing much commentary, as the process for this is going to be pretty rinse and repeat. So to start with, I'm just laying down all the patterns onto the fur, tracing making sure I mark the tags, and just making sure I mark which side is which. Sometimes I write down a little L for left and an R for right, and sometimes I just write X to mark all the same side, and O to mark all the same side. I just find it easier to do X and O for some reason. And for these patterns, I am leaving a 1cm seam allowance because I did not include the seam allowance in the pattern itself. When I cut fur, I like to use a Stanley knife, as this only cuts the backing and leaves the fur intact. You can also use scissors to do this if you're careful not to cut the fur, but it is a lot more time consuming. Here I'm just brushing out all the extra fur remnants. And with these patterns, I did include a 1cm seam allowance, as you probably saw in the last video, so I'm just tracing directly around and going to cut directly around the pattern itself. And because I already included the seam allowance, I can pretty much place the patterns right next to another pattern without worrying that, oh no, it's too small. I just cut those two patterns away from the rest of it because I'm leaving those patterns long and the rest will be shaved down, so I figured I'd just get those ones out of the way so I don't accidentally shave those ones down. I almost forgot to mention, but those little black things there are just weights, just to hold down the patterns while I'm tracing them onto the fur. So there's going to be 2 copies of each and every piece, 1 copy of the original side and 1 copy of the flip side, so that way you end up with the left and right side of the face. Here I'm just cutting out all the pieces that are going to be left long. Now it's time to move on to the shaving. Before I actually start to shave, I brush through the fur once or twice just to make sure there's no tangles. And I'll go through and shave it a few times. The first shave over is a light, kind of rough shave, so that's why it looks so messy. And then I'll go over it again a few times just to make sure it's at the right length and super neat and even. Between every shave, I like to give it a brush over. It's hard to see in the video because it's so sped up, but I am going really slow when it comes to the last few shaves. This just ensures that you're not going to accidentally get a rough edge, and going slower just means it's going to get a real thorough shave. I didn't show it, but I shaved that white piece a few more times before I decided I was happy with it. Once all my pieces are shaved down, I just cut them out. When cutting out pieces, be sure not to press too hard, because even though using a Stanley knife will only cut through the backing and it tends not to cut through the fur, if you press too hard you will cut through everything. It's just a thing about practice. If you've never cut out fur before with a Stanley knife, I would recommend using some scrap pieces on both long and short furs so that way you can just get the feel of it. If you're finding you have to push too hard on your blade to cut, that just means that your blade's blunt and you just need to either give it a sharpen or a changeover. Now I'm just brushing all the loose fur out, just to make sure the patterns are smooth and clean. Now I'm just moving on to the nose, tracing it on some minky fabric. I have a little handheld vacuum, so I figured I'd just vacuum up all the little tiny fluffy bits from the minky. That's it for part 3. Hopefully I'll have my next video up within a week's time on Monday. I'll see you guys then. Bye.